Hey everyone, at the time of this recording, Shin Megami Tensei V has just released worldwide, and I thought it would be fun to make an unscripted first impressions video while I work on my official review. And since I'm not really good at unscripted content, I'm going to be joined by some friends who will be introduced in a moment. But before that, there are a few things that I want to clarify. Firstly, this is going to be a mostly spoiler-free discussion. All footage you're going to be seeing is from the first main area of the game, with story cutscenes and boss battles edited out. We're also going to be avoiding talking about the plot in detail, only giving our general thoughts without discussing what happens in the story. Our thoughts on the gameplay, however, are completely on the table, so if you don't want to hear any of that, then I highly suggest that you stop watching the video and come back when you've played the game yourself. The other thing I want to mention is that I received a review copy of this game from Sega and Atlas. However, all thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are purely my own. With all that said, let's get started. For today's video, I'm joined by my friends Oziach, Fither, and Tony4You. So how are you guys doing today?
Hi, hello. Our original idea was Oziach was going to introduce himself first, but he's gone. Hello, I am Fither. I make videos about SMT and Persona and stuff.
I'm Tony4You. I make SMT lore videos, but they're pretty much just theology lessons masquerading as video game videos.
Hey, I'm Oziach. I definitely wasn't late, and I have a crippling Persona and SMT addiction. Help.
Well, anyways, so SMT V, it actually came out, and we actually got to play it.
That's right.
So let's just get our general thoughts out of the way. Did you like it? Did you not like it? I personally thought it was very, very good. It was really good.
I was expecting a lot from this game, and it still, for the most part, blew me away, which shocked me. Like, I enjoyed this game way more than I thought it would.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed it a lot. Like, I would say it's probably tied with Nocturne for me as being my favorite, like, mainline game. Like, I'm already pretty deep into a second playthrough, which is a pretty good sign that I enjoyed something a lot, because I, like, never do that.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't really on the hype train for this game, but I was expecting a lot, and I think all hype aside, this is one of the best SMT games I've ever played.
Yeah, that is something I can definitely agree with. Like you said, Fither, like, I think it is tied for my favorite mainline game, right next to Nocturne, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, to really break it down, I think we should just start with our, I guess, thoughts on the gameplay changes and anything that we thought would be worth mentioning, because I want to save the story discussion for later. For the gameplay, I tried to avoid as many trailers as I possibly could. I only really watched that trailer when it got re-announced at E3, I guess, like earlier this year, when we actually got to see what the game was really like. And from what was shown off, there was a large focus on exploration, and I had that thought in the back of my mind. I really wanted to see what they were going to do with that in the main game, and I think it was done super well.
Yeah, that's 100% probably my favorite. I mean, the combat itself is extremely good, but that was, like, the part of the game that really hooked me in, whether it was, like, because once you've, I guess, gone through each of the, like, major areas of the world, kind of, like, in perspective, it's like, okay, a lot of them are a lot more linear than it initially feels, but when you first enter those places, like, oh, this is just a massive, like, sprawling place to explore, like, all different, like, caverns and find a whole slew of crap. And even if you are, like, directed down a straight path, it doesn't really feel like it. It feels like there's a lot of freedom to it.
Yeah, I would say that was probably also my favorite thing about it. Like, I was never really looking forward to SMT V as being, like, this big, like, open world exploration kind of game. It just kind of ended up being like that. But yeah, like, I found myself just exploring every environment as much as I could, because I just found it to be so much fun.
Yeah, I was blown away. It wasn't just what I was expecting with an SMT game, which are dungeon crawlers, but the sheer amount of verticality, and the maps just seemed to go way farther than I even anticipated them to be on this next-gen console. It's so much fun exploring these worlds.
Yeah, because even, like, in just that first area alone, like, you're running up, like, toppled buildings that have, like, parts collapsed in them. You can jump inside the buildings, find extra, like, crystals that have different items. You can find different Memen. There's, like, different side quests hidden about depending on where else you go. There's just a very like, there's a lot of attention to detail put in of if you want to head in a certain direction. Obviously, there's, like, the giant mountainous walls you can't get over, but generally, if you look in any area of the map that you can go to, there is something to do there.
On my first playthrough, I explored very thoroughly. like just looking for anything that I could, whether that be Mimon, any sort of glory crystals, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, or any like side quests. And just in that first area, I think I spent about like 10 hours. And even when I thought I was getting close like to the end of it with that first boss, I only found out I was only like halfway through.
Yeah. And I appreciate, because like you kind of forget, at least in my case, like I kind of forgot that there was, I guess, more beyond that. Like in the moment, I was just like, I'm just going to be exploring this desert and finding everything it has to offer. And I don't even care. I'll be here for like 10, 15 hours and just goof off finding every little secret here. And it's weirdly addictive.
Yeah, something else about it. I don't think I would have ever described an SMT game like this before, but it's kind of relaxing in a way. It's just like, I think this is probably the least stressful SMT, just because like, there's no dungeons obviously, so that kind of takes a lot of the stress off, but you can also more or less just decide when you want to get into a fight. So there isn't that constant fear of like, oh god, am I going to get jumped? So I think that definitely makes it a more kind of like easy to play experience.
Yeah, it's just like, it's with how you move around and stuff, it's just a lot more, I guess, chill and atmospheric, and
yeah,
like you said, actually not having it being random encounters. You can either choose to just hunt down enemies as you please, or run from all of them as they chase you down the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely. Exploration is incentivized so well in this game. You're always finding something. You're always finding new Mimans, you're always getting new essences. Everything that you could, there's always something to do around every corner. You never feel rushed into a certain area, and there's always something to see. Hidden areas that are completely off the beaten path could have side quests, Mimans, essences, you name it.
I want it.
Yeah, not even just like side quests, but like actually interesting side quests. The one that's like to keep it to the first area, the one that stuck out to me was there was that cave with the Apsaris in it, and you got a quest there to kill Linanshid. But when you went up to Linanshid, you actually got the opportunity to even talk to them and possibly join up with them instead, and you got different rewards based on who you went with.
Yeah, and there was a really good, I guess like it made the world feel a lot more lived in, because obviously you could like, there were different rewards for getting each of them, but you also kind of heard their different philosophies of why they were doing what they did. But also, like, if I remember, that quest also ties back into a different side quest, where there's like a bunch of starving, I think it's like Preta, if I'm remembering the names right, and like you go back and report back to them, and they're like, thank you, you got us food. All right, we're just gonna kill you now. It's like,
yeah, there was I think that was. Yeah, there was a quest that was asking about like a missing Preta, and that was the
yeah, because that ties into
there.
Yeah. And it's really well handled. And there's like a decent amount of quests throughout the game that do either give you kind of more options and like a much less just do the task and you're done kind of, I guess, structure to it. And they kind of bounce off each other a bit. And I like it.
Yeah, it flows really well. I mean, like you said, the quests flow into each other in such a way where you never feel like you're just checking off boxes on the map. You just explore and explore and explore, and then all of a sudden hours have gone by and you've just been having tons of fun talking to people, finishing quests, upgrading your character. It's awesome.
And you'll even have like quests, like even in that first area where it's like, it'll set things up where it's like, oh yeah, you can do a couple small tasks, and then they'll be like, all right, next you can come back here when you're like level 70, and then you'll be able to finish up all the stuff here. But it leaves a lot of like, I guess, open-endedness and scale to the world that is not really seen in other SMT games, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Because a lot of those old games, it's like, you don't really realize it, but it's been stuck on, like, PS2 hardware at best. Like, for mainline SMT. Like, 4 was on the 3DS. And like,
you telling me the 3DS isn't the most powerful console we've ever had to date?
Well, it can run Luigi's Mansion, and the PS2 can't, so obviously.
Could it, though?
No.
Yeah, but it felt like such a big step forward for this series. Like, it might sound like to like general, like, I guess public, where it's like, oh wow, a big world with like multiple quests, but it's like, for this series specifically, that means a lot. And it definitely like, I'm of the opinion for SMT4 that the world was kind of, it was okay. There was like some stuff you could find, but it was mostly just hallways, some like cities, some maybe you'll find a chest here and there, but there wasn't really that much encouragement to explore. When SMT5 ties its like character progression system, mission structure, all around how you traverse the world and what exactly you can find.
Yeah, it goes back to like what you said before. It really does feel lived in, where in previous games, and this is something for RPG fans or RPG games in general, where it's like there's not much really to do. There's towns, but you don't really feel like there's people living in it. But in this game, every NPC has something to say, and sometimes they even refresh their dialogue depending on what you do throughout the game, and they have comments about it. It really makes this world feels like you're making an impact on it, and the people around are taking notice of what you're doing.
Mm.
Yeah, also for like, to bring it once again back to character progression, I really like the way the abscess work, where it's like you find these giant like orbs, I guess, where they spawn enemies and like mini bosses, and whenever you beat one, you unlock more miracles for the Nahobino, which are kind of like apps from SMT4, except I think they're handled better because the progression of them makes a lot more sense than just reaching a certain part of the story or just reaching a certain level and getting a notification that there's new stuff available.
No, yeah, the abscesses, one thing I really liked about them is like, you know, because whenever you enter a new map, they're basically just covering it and you can't see any of your like markers for anything. And it kind of felt like almost a, I guess, a waypoint of, okay, I see this giant glowing eye over there. I need to get there. I'm going to wander around, see how I can get there. And that's kind of going to kind of guide me through the area in the meantime, so I can actually see what's there, which also adds to, because you can't really see the map super well, kind of adds to that idea of when you're first going through these areas, they feel very expansive and like labyrinthian, and it just adds to that extremely addictive and just enjoyable world exploration.
Yeah,
And you
it
get a
just,
boss
it just
fight with
has like a really good consistent gameplay loop where you always feel like you're accomplishing something and getting stronger. Like, oh yeah, I just got enough Memon to like afford a new thing, but there's an abscess over there. If I go kill that guy, maybe I can go get some new stuff, but maybe I should make some new demons just in case. Like, it's just that continuous loop that I think is so satisfying and so fun that like it makes it feel like no time at all is passing when you're playing.
No, yeah, for sure. There's just always something to do in this game, which a lot of JRPGs, like, they'll, I guess, pad in content, like different side quests or like, I guess, different extra bonuses to look for, but it never really, at least for me, clicks as naturally as it has with this game. At least with that kind of like format.
Mm-hmm.
It is this constant, not just like there are things I can do, but there is a large barrage of things I want to do, and kind of selecting how I'm going to do it when, if I'm able to do it now. It's so good.
Yeah, the character progression is really fun. Like you said, you always feel like you're working towards something. Even if nothing realistically is changing, even if you get a couple more Memans, you really feel like you did accomplish a lot because you're one step closer to getting the next reward. You're getting new miracles that could have an insane impact on your characters, whether it just be letting you get demons more efficiently, powering you up, lowering the mana cost of your spells. It's so fun to just see what you get.
Listen, every single time a Monozaka was screaming at me about some item she found, that was my progression. She just kept stringing me along the map.
Speaking of that, how long did it take you to realize that you should be using spyglasses all the time on Mitama?
It took me until I uploaded my video about like tips for SMT 5, and you left a comment saying that you can use the fucking spyglasses on the Mitama. I like forgot those items existed.
That's the thing. There are a bunch of items in 5 that like I can see how they would definitely ease up the difficulty, and I just kind of didn't bother using them because I don't think I touched the spyglass or like the dampeners at all.
I think it was so like I don't remember if any of the past games had an item like that, to where you just like pop it and it's like here's the enemy's entire moveset and stats. So like I just forgot that was even a thing. I just tried it the old-fashioned way.
They did, but it was like super limited. There was a skill called Analyze in Nocturne that I think you started with.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It was on the first Agatama you had. But it was super limited because it didn't tell you what like bosses had. It just showed like question marks. It cost an MP to use, and it would take up your turn anyways. So at that point, you may as well just like try whatever works best.
So basically, the move was busted.
Yeah, basically, it was core to the experience, and if you didn't do that on every enemy, you're a fool. You also said you didn't use like dampeners much.
Yeah, I didn't even touch them. Most of the items, like, I kind of read over what they did. For some reason, I don't think I ever looked at the dampeners, period. Because people were like, yeah, using those just like breaks the game. So like certain bosses can't touch you. I'm like, really? That sounds like a stretch. Let me read what these do. I'm like, oh, it doesn't let them hit you. Yeah, that might do it.
I wouldn't even say they're game breaking. I feel like it's you're really incentivized to do that whenever you see them preparing like a big attack.
Yeah, and especially with like how a lot of those big attacks can wipe you. It's definitely a good idea to have been using those. I sure wish I had.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I will say about the combat, as the bosses especially, sometimes one turn is all it takes for things to go south really quick. So I had to be reminded to use dampeners a lot, and then it all just clicked, and you beat the boss instantly. But without them, you have your work cut out for you.
I forget which boss it was specifically. It might have been... It was either the major boss of the second area or the third area, without actually saying what they were. But I know one of those, they start the battle, and you don't have a choice in that. And I basically kept having to loop the battle over and over, just waiting for a setup where I wasn't completely wiped by the time my turns began. So yeah, they're a little tough at times.
Well, since I guess we're getting into the game, like that actual battle system stuff now. First question I have: what build did you guys go for? Like, was it physical, magic, anything like that?
Magic.
Yeah, brother, I went magic too.
I started as physical, and then like kind of went middle of the road, and then slowly just leaned further and further into magic by the end.
Okay, I guess I'm the odd one out. I went purely physical.
Nerd!
It was full-on physical, and I think I got a very good challenge out of the game. But physical, I'm serious. I think it is so good by the end game. There are so many like physical skills that deal insane amounts of damage.
Well, because I've seen how both builds like end up, and it really isn't like, I guess like the big example of people's like debate of like magic or physical, I often see like mainly is Nocturne, and it's nothing like that because one, both are about equally viable. And two, if you want to switch what your build is, you can do it pretty quickly on the fly because of how like essences and miracles work. You can basically just customize yourself however you wish if you feel it's going to better suit you in one battle or another.
Yeah, and I needed to do, like, specifically for essences, I love how you have to choose either between getting new skills for Nahobino or his demons, or a third option of just using it on Nahobino to get new affinities.
Yeah.
And you can only do one of those things. So it's like, it's something you really need to think about, because some essences, I think there's only like one per playthrough you can get.
Yeah, I think like most of the like Algami ones, like some of the super crazy demon. I mean, I guess those like the nutso high level ones you can get through leveling up, but if you're not lucky enough to get that, then you're kind of set. No, but I like the weight and balancing they give essences. Which do we have to explain what essences are in general or no?
Well, so to give like the short of it, like whenever you're fusing, like you're in like the world of shadows as it's called now, you get the option to use essences from a menu. They're kind of like demon incenses from Strange Journey, like in the very loose sense. Like they have the same sort of feeling to it, where you can only hold on to one of them at a time, and you use it during, not during fusion, but after fusion this time. And
basically, you copy skills from the demons that you see, and it's awesome.
yeah, you can copy their skills, or just for the Nahobino, you can copy their affinities. And
I way prefer that to how Magasui works. I just find it way more, or not Magasui, Magatama.
Oh yeah,
Where
I like that a lot more too.
yeah, because like if you want to go nuts with it, you can basically make it where Nahobino reflects all. If you're an insane person, but I do like, I guess, the trade-offs that come with that, like depending on where you are in the game and how you decide to spec that, and just trying to strategize based on what's coming up. It's like, okay, this might be a fantastic build, but the one thing I'm weak to, this guy is going to wreck me with. So instead of having to change my entire skill set just to accommodate that, I can just change that affinity, and then I can go punch him in the face.
Yeah, there's tons of options that you can go to if you're struggling with anything, which is one thing I love about the essences. You can just look back to your essence pile whenever you're struggling, and there has to be something there that can help you out.
There's always a savior.
And this is like a lesson that the game kind of nails into early, because I think, was it like this in 4 where you're just naturally weak to dark? Like, I don't quite remember.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, because the Aogami affinities you start off with, like, you're just weak to dark, and one of the early bosses, they use a dark-based skill. And it can
it really just like teaches you can't just go ham without thinking about it. You actually need to strategize based on what's coming up. And I feel like that first boss, like against the Hydra in general, is just like really effective at, I guess, setting a tone. Not as like blunt as something like Matador is in Nocturne, not by a long shot, but it still is like, it's that first barrier where you're like, okay, no, this game is not a pushover. I still need to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah, I imagine for a lot of people, he's going to be like this generation's Minotaur, where people are just like, how the fuck?
I've gotten a couple tweets sent my way of people like sending pictures of them finally beating the first boss, and they just don't even know how much more intense it gets from then on.
Yeah.
Almost every fight can be nerve-wracking depending on how many turns they have. I distinctly remember one boss, and what convinced me to change my affinities, was getting constantly one-shot by dark skills. Now, I heard this is a low chance of happening, but pretty much any time I got hit by a dark skill when I was weak to it, I died in one hit. So it teaches you pretty quick, hey, play around the enemy or die trying.
I actually don't think I ever did get in like proper insta-killed. So I guess luck was on my side for that one, but I definitely got hit by a lot of dark skills. So I guess I was riding that line.
It happened to me, and I lost an hours of progress.
No.
And it was so malding.
Well, yeah, I guess big tip, save often. This
Please
is
save.
hard as nails.
Yeah. This game has the where if you die and if the protagonists die, you're just sent back to the title screen. Like there's no second chance like in the 4 games where you just pay to come back, or if it's Apocalypse, you just come back.
I mean, I guess unless you're playing on safety mode, if you're that guy.
Oh, does safety mode do that?
I think that's how it worked in, I believe, Nocturne HD. So I figured it would be like this, but I could be wrong.
I ended up playing on normal. Did everyone else do the same? Was it just normal?
Yeah. I'm not that crazy. I'll stick to normal, thanks.
I had a lot of people messaging me. They're like, nah, trust me, I'm an SMT veteran. I'm going to start on hard. And then a day later, all right, so I'm going to crank down the difficulty a little bit.
Yeah, I heard that the game is brutal on hard.
Which, hey, if that's the challenge you like, freaking go for it. The game is fun on any difficulty you do. Just don't make it so you literally can't beat it. Play the game.
Something that SMT V did that I was kind of surprised to see was that they changed the way buffs work to be a lot more in line with Persona than what we're usually used to in mainline.
I've seen a lot of people complaining about this, and maybe most likely it's because I'm coming from, I guess, more strictly a Persona background than like a heavily experienced SMT background. I actually found it a bit more engaging having it where I had to keep track of how long my buffs were up, and I guess early game you can only do single target buffs, so who I'm buffing and actually focusing on what I was going to, like which order I was going to buff people. It was a lot more engaging than in something like Nocturne where that game relying on buffs, it's basically just, all right, start of turn, buff everyone constantly over and over. All right, now we start the battle, because otherwise the game is not built for that.
Yeah, despite the reputation that SMT has as being a tough as nails game that smacks you around, most of the games aren't that difficult as long as you have the full party defense buff. If you're really feeling saucy, give them the accuracy and evasion buff and just steamroll through everything. In this game, they really wanted to put the kibosh on that. All of them cost an insane amount of mana, luster candy, all of the healing skills cost an exorbitant amount, and you need to refresh them. So that really adds an extra layer of difficulty, but it never feels unfair. You just need to pay attention more.
They also do still feel like, because now there's only 2 tiers to your buffs, but they still feel worth it. Like I don't know if I needed to make it climb higher than that and then waste even more MP. It still feels like even doing 1 or 2 tiers, it makes a substantial enough difference to warrant going out of your way to buff people if it comes down to it. So yeah. I think buffing is really, it actually might be my favorite, I guess, buff system in the series so far.
I think in a way it's incentivized more, oddly enough. Despite them not being permanent, they make such a substantial effect on your character, and the debuffs on the enemy make such a huge difference and are borderline necessary to beat some of the bosses that it's better.
yeah, like I said before, in a lot of the games, it ends up being like the default is you need to be buffed or they need to be debuffed. Otherwise, this fight, good luck, dude. So I like the battles being more, I guess, generally, it's built more around the actual confrontation of your team, and then depending on how you buff or they buff or whatever, actually changes the tide of battle in a fair and engaging way.
Yeah, it's another thing you have to pay active attention to, because there are passive skills that boost the amount of the length of how long buffs will last for. Like, I think it's called Boon Boost. It'll increase it by like an extra turn, and then there's an end game one that increases it by 2 turns, which is pretty like required if you want to do the game's super bosses, which there's 2 of them. One's DLC, the other one's in the game. And how's
the DLC going?
Oh my god! If we want to talk about that for a second, the DLC, I only bought the Fiend DLC because I didn't think that the other ones would be worth it. Because at the time, I already had like a level 99 party because I was going through getting all the endings. So I steamrolled through the Fiends, and you unlock them for Fusion, which is cool. They were designed more so to be tackled throughout the game rather than what like SMT 4 did, where they were end game demons you had to fight, then you could make them.
Yeah, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, in fact, that DLC is, because it features the Demi-Fiend, it was structured in the exact same way with the same gimmicks as in Nocturne. Yeah, you fight Matador, then you do Dice Sojo, and then I think it was like Hellbiker. And then you just go through the same order, you get the same cutscenes with the riders showing up, which is so cool. But then after all that, you get to fight the Demi-Fiend, and I have tried doing it like 10 times at this point, and I think I have a pretty good party, but I can't do it. It is way too hard.
Yeah, I've done about a dozen attempts. I get that slight bit closer every time, but I've never made it happen.
Clearly, it's a skill issue.
I think it is.
No, yeah, I haven't even gotten to fighting him yet in my second run, but I'm ready. I think. No,
you're not. I'm gonna just put you back to Earth. You're not.
It's insane. He has like, it's kind of like in DDS where he has party members, but it's like, I think anyways, the gimmick is that you have to kill a demon of his before a certain number of turns pass, otherwise he'll just instantly kill your party. But those demons are so powerful, they can get rid of all your buffs, they have Luster Candy, Debilitate, and it's such an insane composition. You pretty much have to have like demons specifically to kill his. Like, I have no idea how to get it done at the moment.
I've pretty much given up all hope on doing that. This is coming from the guy who forgets items are a thing in over half of the battles.
Maybe eventually one of us will overcome the challenge. We'll get an update on that.
I did eventually do it in DDS, but I had to use like the super cheese strategy where you where you make the pixie kind of freak out and try using spells she doesn't have the MP for.
Huh.
Yeah, but for SMT 5, this I think is the hardest boss in the series out of all the ones I've done. I've done like Elizabeth, I've done Demi-Fiend, I've done Satan before. It is insane how strong it is.
Just gotta get good.
Yeah, but other than that, I didn't buy any of the other DLCs because I didn't think they'd be worth it, really.
Having played them, I think they're a cool addition. Like, if you're going through a proper, like, I guess if you want to do a second run of the game without like any of your bonuses, or if you're going through the first time and you just want a couple extras, playing through them, they are cool little side quests, and they kind of are structured so you get like one around like level 30, and you get one around like level 50, and then one at 70. And just kind of, I guess, gradually giving them to you throughout the game. And they're really cool. They have a lot of cool abilities to them. But I don't know if I would say that, like, Athena's worth $4 or $5.
Athena costs more and is, like, easily outclassed in the game.
You wanna know why Athena costs more?
Why does Athena cost more?
Because in the other quests, all you fight is, for Cleopatra and Mephisto, all you do is get a single boss fight against them. But in Athena, not only do you get to fight her, you also get to fight Quetzalcoatl. Ooh.
You get to fight a demon that's already in the game.
Yep.
Like, I think it's like $6 Canadian for
Oh my gosh.
for Athena, and it's like that, and the other ones are like 4, so it's like, why does it cost more? I like her design a lot. I think the animations she has are cool, but with these demon DLCs, it's kind of I don't think it's worth it because this game, in nature, like, you don't use demons for very long. You always get new ones.
That's the thing. There's like more effort put into them than something like most of the DLC you get in like Royal. But it's like, okay, I got the demon. All right, 10 levels passed, maybe like 20 if you're really dragging them along. Okay, bye.
That was a good use of $6.
That is interesting the way they do it. They seem so interwoven into the progression of the game that if you beat the game first without it, there's really no reason to go back and buy them aside from the Demi-Fiend one.
Yeah, it's just like, man, Mephisto's model sure is pretty. Anyways.
Yeah, it's like the Demi-Fiend one was like $10, and you get like a bunch of fiends, a cool boss fight that's like really difficult.
That one gives you, I think, literally 10 new demons and like the craziest piece of garbage you'll ever fight. And I think every cutscene is voice acted for it.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Like, all the fiends have voice dialogue. I was like, yo, Matador's talking, bro.
Not even voice dialogue, but like new voice dialogue that's like different actors than in Nocturne HD.
Which was very jarring, because Nocturne HD, if I'm remembering right, Matador's like, you found me! And then this one, he's like, I will murder you.
Yeah, Matador had like the Skeletor voice. And I'm so sad they didn't get the same guy who did Hellbiker, because he was the best one in Nocturne HD.
Yeah.
He had the Hulk Hogan voice.
Oh, he sure did. But it is really cool having that level of... that is a good DLC. If you're going to buy anything for this game, do that if you have the money. Everything else, don't bother.
Yeah, you can do without the other ones. I think the Demi-Fiend one it has more value than the other ones. But I'm not sure if you guys ever feel strongly about this, but like it really shouldn't have been like day one DLC.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said in my review of the DLC, I think this would have been a really cool New Game Plus kind of thing. Just like, you start up a new game not expecting anything, and suddenly it's like, yeah, here's a menorah, wink wink, and then you're like, oh shit. Like, that would have been awesome. But instead it's $10. So.
Oh man, that would have been like really hype, like especially if like it didn't get any trailer.
I think that would have immediately pushed it up to just 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, peak video game.
Something I realized we kind of skimmed over was that another new mechanic introduced for battle system is the Magatsuhi gauge, which I think is it's a pretty cool idea, but I think that the one that they start you off with is probably the best one in the game.
So good. It's really weird how it's handled, because like the Omogatoki critical is so good because it's guaranteed crits. Like, that's how you win in SMT. And then like you unlock a lot of other ones of very varying quality. So it feels like there's kind of a weird, like, power curve when it comes to the abilities.
Yeah, because for most of the game, it was just like, all right, I got my crits, I win the game. I will at least say that late game, there were a lot of them that were being given to me that, like, were genuinely, like, very specific, but were really nuts, and I was like, okay, I definitely can use this. Like, I think for the final boss, obviously not saying anything about it, but, like, I was sitting there for a while not doing any damage. I was like, what the heck Magatsuhi skills do I have? Oh, there's one that just lets me do pierce for every attack, and then he went down in another, like, 3 minutes.
That ability's really good, yeah.
I do like the variety of them all, though. Like, generally, you're just gonna stick with the crit one, because obviously it's the one on Nahobino until you get, like, a skill that lets him use different ones, and then also, yeah, it just wipes through the battles. But the ones that you can get, like, especially in using for bosses, they can be pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't really experiment with many of them. I pretty much stuck with the critical hit one because you can do some really, like, insane strategies with it. Like, you can do attacks followed by, like, defensive options. You can just go all in, like, with attacks and do insane damage. And the other ones are stuff like, oh, you can negotiate with a demon, but if it fails, it doesn't, like, you can just try again instantly. It's like, well, that's, like, super situational and not really worth the gauge.
Man, I gotta use it.
Yeah, but I did try out stuff like Freykugel EX, Big Bang, and those are cool skills, but I don't think their utility is as impactful as the critical hit one.
Those are good if you need to kill something like instantaneously, but otherwise, yeah.
In my New Game Plus so far, Big Bang has just been used to murder every Matama I see. Just, I'm not dealing with your weaknesses today, die.
I feel kind of weird because I never used any Magatsuhi skill aside from the crit one in my entire game, and I played through it twice. Just the utility of being able to just do half of a boss's HP pretty much in one turn is so hard to give up. It's unbelievable.
It's also worth mentioning that you can cast the Magatsuhi gauge without it using up a turn, so it can be free damage, like in a way.
Yeah.
But, and also the critical hit one isn't like flawless because you can still miss. And I have had so many times where I've been fully buffed, they've been fully debuffed. I had charge, powering up my severe attack, and I just miss. And it is the worst feeling in the world.
And I can understand just sticking with the crit one, but I did feel like there were at least a couple, like even like there's one that's literally just like charge for all your party members. I think it also makes your MP double, but like if you're like in the final stretch of a boss fight, for instance, you're like, I just need to wipe out this dude. All right, let me do like my crazy buffing physical attack on this dude, and hey, look, it did like 30,000 damage.
I know what you're talking about. It like doubled MP costs, but also the magic attacks would be twice as strong. But I'm not sure if that stacks with concentrate already.
I actually think it does.
Like because I didn't really have a mage build, but if it did stack with concentrate, that would actually be kind of nuts.
No, yeah, because one of my big, I guess, strategies was just make him just top tier Fizz build. I think I put like Fizz Pleroma and high Fizz Pleroma on him, then just all buff, charge, use that ability, no one survives. Very convoluted setup, but when I needed it, it works.
I actually have a demon that's pretty much like that, except it's a different endgame one. It's the first super boss. Like once you beat them, you can unlock them for fusion. And that fight, I love that fight. It was so much fun.
I still need to go through that one, but the little bit I played of it, I was really enjoying.
Yeah, they have a gimmick of managing, like, you have to manage which, because they can call allies at a point. You have to make sure one of them doesn't die. Otherwise, they'll counter with, like, an insane almighty skill that just completely obliterates your defense and lowers it down to, like, nothing.
Okay. That's actually really cool.
It's a really fun fight.
There are a lot of really cool fights in this game. There are also a lot that are just, like, I guess spongy is how I've heard it very often described.
Yeah, a lot of the like bosses especially feel very thick.
I don't mind as much as a lot of other people. Like I do like battles where it's like an endurance test, but some of those wars of attrition definitely are they're a bit longer than others.
Did you guys at all ever have a problem with like running out of MP?
Yes, all the time.
All the time.
Okay, because I had that problem at the start, but as the game went on, I think physical skills just cost less. Like, as the game went on and I got, like, my affinities up and all that, because there's, like, I had physical affinity, almighty, and support affinity. And I had all those maxed out. And because I'm physical, I only needed those. And because you guys did magic, were you, like, maxing out every other affinity? Or were you just, like, I'm gonna do this element, this is my sort of ideal?
I stuck to, like, fire, lightning, and ice. Like, that was my kind of trio of elements. And yeah, I was still running out of MP all the time.
Yeah, like, I do like your mention of, like, at the start of the game, just MP just vanishing, because my favorite thing about the start of the game for some reason is just the fact that that entire stretch you are broke. It's like I finally got back to the leyline fountain after getting wrecked by however many enemies are around here. All my money is going back into healing me back up so I can just go back into battle.
Yeah, and then Gustav is like,
Oh my god, I hate that noise so much. Every time you buy something, sell something, he just cackles. He's making fun of me.
Thanks.
You know, I really like the voice acting in this game, but there are some voices, and especially like repeated voice lines, that I'm like, you couldn't have made the repeated line not like the most high-pitched squeal these voice actors could do for the day. Because, like, Amano Zako just going, you want some? Do you? I'm like,
I was waiting for this.
I'm like, it's just a life stone. Shut up. I don't need this. Bring back Dekarabia.
They make, like, such a big deal about finding an item. When you interact with them, it's like 10 Maka.
Like, Dekarabia is the best one of those you can get throughout the game to follow you. Because he doesn't speak. He just makes little rumbling noises. Oh my gosh. Friggin'... Yeah, Gustav especially, though. It was like, every time I was selling items, I was just completely tuning out of the noise so I didn't go insane.
He was super useful because at the start of the game, elemental gems and like shards are just so useful no matter what like build you're going for.
I sure wish I had money to buy them.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I noticed about the game. I am always broke. at every point in the game. I wish I need more Maka.
Yeah, even New Game Plus, I was like, I'm pretty rich. Time to start fusing. After like 5 demons, I'm like, well, there's my money.
There goes all of it for the whole playthrough.
Yep.
I think
it's definitely very capitalist.
Yeah, I think I'm missing like 3 or 4 demons from the Compendium. But it's like, okay, so I've done every ending in the game. Like, I've done multiple playthroughs at this point. And the ones that I'm missing are, like, locked to specific alignments that I never got. So I have to do at least, like, 2 more playthroughs.
Oh my gosh.
So I have become so good at just speedrunning through, like, everything. And if you run past everything, the game isn't that long. But
Yeah.
you're, like, heavily incentivized to, like, explore, do all the side quests and all that. But it's surprising, like, how much you can just run past at level 99 and how fast you can get to the end of the game because of it.
Yeah, like, how long would you say a run is if you're just, like, rushing through? Like, a couple hours, I guess?
Yeah, it's just like a couple hours. And if you've optimized it as hard as I have, you know exactly when the dialogue for choices is going to pop up and how to skip the cutscenes.
I do really like, though, kind of what you were mentioning is, I guess something you find out once you beat the game, though. And I don't think other SMT games have done this, but once you beat a route, you get not only new demons to fuse, but like it depends on the like alignment you chose. And I think that's a really like cool feature for people who are willing to like go back and kind of like play through again or like try to fill up their compendium and actually incentivize getting those different endings.
Yeah, I think 4 was the only one that did that too. I haven't played Strange Journey, so I would not be too sure about that.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say. This game is very repeat playthrough friendly. I almost never replay games, but this is one of the few games in my entire life where I beat it and immediately started up a new playthrough because I was so interested in the Reborn mode, New Game Plus. I just had to play it again.
Yeah, like especially with how kind of like we said before, like how chill it is just to wander around. Like once I beat the game and I kind of went through that full like ending stretch, I was like, okay, but I just want to run around the desert some more. So like, even if I'm not even doing anything specific or I'm not like I'm trying to rush through the game, when I went into my second run, it was just like, all right, I'm just gonna goof around in the first area again. Just now I'm like a crazy high level.
Something that I really liked about revisiting areas when you're high level is that throughout the game, like because all demons are on the overworld map, but like strong demons, like top shit demons, they are massive, like in scale.
Yeah.
I remember in the first area, there's a demon that gives you like a side quest on top of a mountain. And when I first saw him, I was in a call with my friends playing it. We actually were just like, holy shit, that guy's huge.
Oh, it's so good. Because there are a lot of RPGs that have kind of tried like leaning away from, I guess, like turn-based stuff. Or not turn-based, like random encounters. And have leaned more towards like, I guess monsters just wandering around. Even like I think Pokemon Sword and Shield was mainly like that. But this is the first game where it really, one, the monsters felt believable in the world, and also they were generally set to scale. So like, whether it's side quest monsters that are like towering, like you said, or like you have random demons that are crawling around that are either like half your height or like 5 times your height. It's really dynamic and makes even the demons feel a lot more personable in that regard with how they're like just coexisting in that world.
It also makes it easier to remember where things are. Like, I know there's like some of the side quests are kind of lame. It's like, as Tony has said in the past to me, he said like they're kind of like MMO quests where like you just kill X amount of thing.
Yeah,
And
but if you like, the first thing I think of with that is like kill all like bicorn or something. It's like, oh yeah, those are just the dorks running around in the desert, like in the little circle.
Yeah, it's like, oh, those like get Inugami's head. It's like, oh, I know where that is. Like, that's at this spot right here. And as you said, there's like, get bicorn horns. Like, that's over here. And it's worth mentioning that there aren't too many of those, but when they did show up, it was kind of like a, oh, okay, kind of thing.
Yeah, most of the side quests are a lot more entertaining, or like give you more specific things to do.
Yeah, a lot of them do have
really
you
happy
fight.
with.
A lot of them do have you fight like demons you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, well, because I actually remember way more side quests that it was like, go out of your way to fight this boss than just hunt down X amount of enemies. Like, a lot of them were like, here is a new boss to fight, and we'll give you some neat reward for it, and they'll be like, you know, a tougher enemy that'll also get you some XP. So it's like, okay, it's something that's off the beaten path that's not just grinding. It's still like some form of challenge.
Yeah, even the MMO quests, as much as I hate them, the ones that are just like collect 5 bicorn horns, I did it just to get it out of the way, and then they gave me Maka, and like we said, Maka is very hard to come by in this game, and it was repeatable. I was like, this is the best day of my life.
They rarely ask you for that many, because I think the largest amount I remember for like a quest like that was in the second area. There's someone who's asking to fight like mandrakes, and that was like, okay, you're gonna go to this area and like hunt down all these plants. But I also, oddly enough, liked that one because they kind of did this thing with it where they're like, oh yeah, watch out, other people are going to be hunting for these too. And so every time you fight them, you would like slowly have like Narcissus appear, and like more and more of them would appear each fight. So like scaled with the amount you're collecting. It's like, if you're going to do like a quest like that, it's cool to at least make it like interesting and unique in that sense. So it's not just like a boring task. There's almost like a story to it.
Yeah, but it's like, they are still worth doing for the rewards, because you do get stuff like demon essences, you get money, you can get like glory crystals, which is how you buy miracles, along with like finding Mimons.
I always forget that like you need to get the talismans throughout the game too.
Yeah, that's how you get new Magatsuhi skills.
Yeah, so like collecting those and just like building up your Magatsuhi abilities, just like even getting like grimoires and stuff, just different things to just whether it's better customize your team or just make you live more. There aren't really any side quests like when you're given them that I feel like are pointless.
Yeah, there's always a reason to do them at the very least.
Mm.
And I think that wraps up everything for the gameplay portion of this. Overall, did you guys like it? Like, did you think it was a meaningful improvement at all, or sort of derivative at all?
It sucks. No, but I friggin' love how this game plays. Like, in terms of mainline, this is easily my favorite in gameplay. No contest.
Yeah, I would also say that, like, in terms of just the play experience, this is probably my favorite. Like, I would say I probably prefer the overall, like, combat in 4 Apocalypse a little bit more, but just playing this game is so much fun, and it's so kind of, like, different from all the other games. I'd say it's probably my favorite just in terms of, like, you know, sit down, play the game kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing really to complain about. It's one of the best moment-to-moment gameplay experiences. And while I still prefer Strange Journey and its exploration, this has a better combat. And while I might like Nocturne's world a little bit more, it's just everything about it coalescing together makes this the best like overall experience in an SMT game.
Yeah, I agree with that. From a gameplay perspective, this is probably my favorite one, just like easily. There's reasons to explore. It all works back into character progression, and it's just a fun loop all together.
Yeah, if you just like really good like turn-based combat or monster collectors, buy it now. That's all you need. Get it.
Okay, but other than that, we are going to cover the story next. But before we do anything, we're just going to reiterate one more time that we are not going to be talking about any specific scenes that happened, but more so our general thoughts on just the story as a whole and if we liked it or not, because it's a bit more contentious from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't even want to hear that, then I suggest you all stop watching now and play the game yourselves. And with that out of the way, what did you guys think of the story overall?
It's definitely almost great, in my opinion. There's a lot I really like about it, and then there's a lot I'm like, oh, okay, like that's cool, I guess. But I like the other stuff, mainly towards like the latter half. I kind of tuned out a bit, unfortunately. It has a very good first impression, though. I'll give it that much at least.
As for me, I think I'm still kind of in the, like, trying to settle my opinion on it stage of, like, thinking about it. I'd say I enjoyed it a lot. I really liked a lot of the kind of themes of it and, like, lore and stuff, but I feel like the actual kind of moment-to-moment, like, if you describe the story as the events that happen, then it's like, okay.
I would actually, kind of on that note, one thing that specifically I think this game does really well is the alignments in terms of the actual like ideology of the ideologies of the characters, where depending on the game they can either feel more reasonable or are basically they're just talking heads for a very exaggerated,
a very extremist sort of
a very extremist stance. Well, in this game, like a lot of them by the end grow into kind of like extremists, because you know you kind of have to if like where the plot is going, but what gets them to that point is generally a lot more understandable. Like, this game has the first law rep that makes sense on a fundamental level. It's the only one that you can kind of understand.
Well, my thoughts on the story is it's very peaks and valleys. In the beginning, it's incredible build up. It's one of the best outlines for a story of any game, really. I think it's amazing. The overall narrative it's pushing, the world it takes place in is amazing. But there's just some aspects that really knock it down, and it manages to get back up. But then at the very end, it kind of fumbles it, like with some of the character writing not really making too much sense. The silent main character just kind of staring at people as cutscenes happen around him, and just the way things coalesce into just happening, bring it down from one of the best stories in SMT history to just a really good one.
Yeah, because I guess part of what, I guess going on with what you were saying, Tony, part of what kind of led me to that, I guess, reaction where it was like very peaks and valleys is the game a lot of the time wants to lean into, I guess, having more like sympathetic or I guess like engaging characters. It tries to be a lot more of a character-driven story a lot of the time, which when it works really well. When it doesn't, it's like, okay, whatever. But there are also times where it'll kind of drop that pretense, which becomes really jarring when it's like, where wasn't this whole thing a thing? No, okay, I guess we're back to the more detached storytelling, and it can be very odd. When it does really well on either side, I love it, but I feel like it doesn't really have a strong identity in that regard. It kind of flip-flops.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember having a discussion with Nam even prior to this, which was even at the very end of the game, I didn't really know what anybody actually wanted to do completely. I'm thinking specifically one of the endings, I won't spoil what it is, but what I took away from it and what Nam took away from it were two completely different things. And it's not explained to you unless you go that route, which I think is a fundamental failing in the character writing and the actual narrative of that aspect of it. I really wish it would just explain itself. And I don't mean to sound like an idiot who doesn't want to read between the lines, but I just didn't know what they wanted to do.
Yeah, it's a little weird to have a game ask you to make a decision that big if it's not made clear what it even entails or why you would want to. That kind of ruins the idea of, I guess, picking your ideology, to put it lightly.
For me, anyways, this is one of the only times, like, to say something positive about this, one of the only times where I feel as though the alignments were fully treated as equals out of all the ones I've played. Because usually there's, like, a bit of a bias, in my opinion, towards, like, getting certain endings. To the point where it's like, when I played this one, I picked what I thought was going to be one ending, but it was revealed to be of a different alignment that I had no idea it was going to be. But it just sounded, it just sounded really good to me.
That's the thing. There's a lot more, like I was saying before, like each alignment has more understandable, like more of an understandable nature to it, or like a more compelling argument for that one. And even like you'll hear like certain things about the alignments in the game where, like you said, they sound like they're going down one path, or kind of like they reflect on a certain alignment. And then the more you hear about it, you realize, oh wait, no, this is definitely not what I initially thought, which is a really interesting way to handle that stuff that I don't know if any of the games have really done before, whether intentional or not.
Yeah, it seems as though there was a lot of care and effort put into realizing all of them being aspects that we can all see the pros and cons of. Just the way it's executed is, in the beginning, wonderfully done, and you can see the justification from every single character and every single alignment rep, whether you want to call them that, because they are kind of, some of them are bait and switches, but they go from sympathetic, this is what I think is right, I'm willing to fight for it, to this is what I know is right, I'm killing everyone.
You know, and like with a series that doesn't rely on like alignments, but very much uses them as like a draw, it is really nice seeing them a lot more fleshed out in this game, to an extent, in a way that really drew me in going through it.
Yeah, but I think my biggest problem with SMT V's narrative, I don't really think that the actual alignments were that well integrated into the story itself as other games have done it. Like, they have some interesting ideas, they give you something good to think about. Like, I like the discussion that can be had with the endings, but actually incorporating them into the story was done far too late, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I would agree, because, like, the first, it kind of feels like the middle kind of chunk, like, around the second and third area feels like, I wouldn't say a waste of time, but it kind of feels like we've gotten distracted from, like, what's actually going on. It's not until, like, you get into the fourth area where it feels like, all right, now we're kind of focused in on, like, something in particular.
Because there is a twist going into the fourth area that does, I guess, cause that, like, difference in what direction the story is going and how you're going to go about it. And before that point, in the moment, it feels fine, but looking back, it's a little weird where it's like, okay, why was it like this? And why are the alignments not really making a major difference? Like, for the most part, the different alignment groups are just kind of hanging around and at most will either say hi to you or harass you. But whether or not you actually choose to side with them doesn't really make a difference. You're still going to go through it in basically the same way.
Yeah, it takes until the last moment for the alignment lock to happen. And I kind of wish that there was one extra area to, like, use to flesh it out more.
Yeah, that was a thing I generally felt in the game, both in a story and gameplay sense. Honestly, gameplay more so because I was, like, hooked. And I was like, okay, one more area, please.
Yeah.
Just, I need more to explore. But even story-wise, there is a very big leap between, I'd say, I guess if you want to put it this way, like the second and third act, it kind of spins out a bit. And I'm like, there was a very easy chance to build up a lot of the ideas that are here and extend them so it's not just in your face, this is what we're doing now, you are going to beat the game today.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing, especially because SMT 3, 4, and Strange Journey all had at least a little bit of, okay, this is the alignment you went, this is the story due to those actions you made. But like you said, it's just right at the very end, they fumble it. And realistically, it doesn't really feel like you're picking a side in the cosmic sense of like, this is my belief, this is what I will fight tooth and nail for. It's more like, well, I have to now, so I might as well pick one. And it's literally just like, all right, what do you want? Pick a card.
It's a little strange thinking about the fact that in a game, especially an SMT game, going down a law path and going down a chaos path are, for the most part, basically identical. And that feels wrong. Like, it feels like there should be a lot more variety throughout, other than like one or two dialogues, like text boxes.
Yeah, it's like what I said before. I had said it in passing, but the whole silent main character syndrome, despite the fact that you can make choices throughout the game, really they don't feel like they mean anything at all. They have no change on anything aside from the hidden value, of course, of the alignment, which is a thing in every SMT game. But it's like you don't do anything in the game. You don't realistically do anything. You do everything in the game, but nothing in the story.
Would you at all feel as though that's because of the way the gameplay content is structured? That because you can spend so much time in a single area, just like looking around, doing all this stuff, that because you're doing that, it makes it feel as though the story pacing is a lot more scattershot than it is?
Could be it. It's kind of hard to, like, prove or disprove that. At least to me, I think it's mostly an issue of, like, not really pacing, I guess just like story direction, because I feel like you could restructure a lot of this stuff and kind of move shit around and it would flow a lot better. Because I feel like I said, the whole middle chunk does kind of feel like a filler arc in some ways.
I remember when I was playing the game, one of my friends was watching, and he said he like, from what he saw so far, the only thing that he kind of had an issue with was that it felt like nothing was really happening, and this was in the second area.
I can see that on both sides, because it depends on, I guess, how much weight you put in what's going on. Because, like, in the moment, I was, like, really into the stuff going on in the second area. I was like, okay, this is really cool. I kind of like how they're using the characters here and kind of how everything is being built up. I can't wait to see where this goes. And then by the end, I kind of looked back and I was like, it was basically just an elongated explanation of a single fact of lore.
Yeah, it is interesting to think about, because in stories, the way they're structured is usually you either want to feel very important, like, say, the main character of Strange Journey, or very almost insignificant, building up to power, like in Nocturne. but what you don't want to feel like is a goon. And in SMT5, you kind of feel like a goon, just doing whatever.
Which is really weird considering what the final goal of the game becomes. It's a very strange tonal shift. Especially since in a lot of those endings, you might still have that goon energy to your name.
I know I had that goon energy in my ending.
Yeah, I think we got the same ending, Nom. But it's like, I guess I was important, but was I? I guess so.
Yeah, I remember I'm a pretty staunch law-aligned player, and this is the one of the very few games where I picked an ending out of frustration. I was just like, you know what? I am the master of my own domain. I hate everyone. And then I just chose an ending.
Y'all suck. Get out of here.
I think it's also worth mentioning that there is a fourth ending in this game.
Yeah, and I don't know if you would agree with this, because I know, Tony, you actually got that on your first run.
No, he tried to get it on his first try.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So the thing about that is, I don't think you can get it on your first try, because I fulfilled every requirement and it did not work, which is very disappointing.
Weird. Okay, because, like, the actual requirements for it are both, like, weirdly enough, I don't know if you agree with this, it's, like, in the execution of playing through the game to do it, it's not that convoluted, but explaining it is.
Honestly,
Yeah, the lore implications of it don't make much sense, but I just treat it as like a reward for pseudo 100%ing it, like pseudo 100%ing all of the important stuff.
Yeah.
Tony, have you seen the fourth ending?
I have not yet. I'm gonna get that soon. I'm doing all the endings. I got my copy a little bit later, so I just am halfway through my second playthrough right now.
Have any of you seen the fourth ending? Just curious.
Not yet.
No.
Okay, because I've done it.
You're alone.
I have done it, and I really liked it. I thought it was a great ending, but actually,
It didn't make you
getting
feel like a goon?
No, you do not feel like it has the exact opposite anti-goon energy to it.
Awesome.
But actually getting that ending, you have to do something that has nothing to do with that ending at all. And I think it is so dumb. And it took me so long to figure out, because I tried getting that ending my second time through, and I got it on my 6th playthrough. I tried it so hard. I tried getting it, but I could not figure it out for the life of me until someone actually posted what you had to do. And it involves a certain side quest that I don't want to say, but there is no there's no connecting line of why does this make this happen in this ending.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it gave me bad flashbacks to the whole in the neutral route of SMT4 where you just had to randomly do side quests. But I think it made more sense there because there was like a plot element involving it. And this is just like something you have to do.
Yeah, at least a few of the quest lines relate back to the main story in a semi-meaningful way, as in it gives you more like backstory for certain characters, but at the same time there's a lot more you have to do that doesn't seem like it makes any sense.
Yeah, so what endings did you guys get your first playthrough? Like what alignment did you get?
I thought I got neutral.
I'm under the assumption I got neutral.
What was
I'm not entirely sure.
What was the color of the crystal that was on your save file? Because I thought I got neutral too, but I didn't.
Color of the crystal. I do not remember.
Okay, because my color was red.
Okay. Without actually, never mind. I was gonna say maybe say the person who it is, but I think that'd give it away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah. Yeah, but for sure, I know me and Nom got the same ending. We were like, yeah, it's totally neutral, and then we looked later, it's like, oh, that's definitely not. It was chaos.
I got neutral. For sure, I got neutral.
Yeah.
Which was
Real
real.
one.
None of us have any idea what fucking ending we got.
all we know is that we didn't get law.
Everyone got neutral.
Yeah.
That's the only one that it's clear on. There are 3 neutral endings in this game, and 1 where you're God's pity man.
Every copy of SMT V is personalized. Like on God.
Dude, that would be awesome if just depending on the copy, it changed the color of the gem.
That would be the worst.
That would be Omega Mind. It just fuck with the entire player base. Nobody has any idea what ending is which.
What do you mean that was law?
So we have 2 chaos, 1 to be determined, and 1 neutral.
Apparently, unless colors mean nothing.
But I thought I was satisfied with my ending. I thought it was pretty cool ending that I got. And then Tony made fun of me when I told him what I got. He's like, "Oh, you're an idiot."
I don't know if I was satisfied in my ending actually seeing how it played out. In concept I was, but I was like, alright, let's see what happens. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, if you mean like in terms of the last bit of the story, yeah, I'm more satisfied with the idea behind my ending than I am with
Yeah, no, the idea is cool. I think that applies to all of them. Like, if you actually, I guess, are able to figure out exactly what they're calling for, like, all of the endings are pretty cool ideas. It's just, execution varies.
Yeah, the ideology behind all of them are really, really well fleshed out. And it led to, like, yeah, I made fun of Nam for it. I don't like the implication of that ending. I very much like the implication of mine. He is on the flip side, and it led to some pretty interesting conversations. I think you could actually discuss the endings of this game in its own, like, hours-long video. It's so narratively weighty. It's awesome.
One of the few SMT games where actual nuance can be found in each ending.
No survival of the fittest or brainwashing here. It's all very uniquely done.
Yeah. And I at least appreciate that. Like, even if I personally was a little bit let down by the ending, I think I've warmed up to it a bit more over time. I definitely do think that the idea behind it and aspects of the execution were really cool. Anyways, my ending was right.
Yeah, I agree. It was right.
No, none of that, brother.
I agree.
No,
It was
neutral.
right.
We all got neutral. We did it.
Yay.
No, it was worth. I think that's the moral of the story here. Neutral ending is the best one. Trust us.
What we assume is neutral.
Don't look at the gems at the end. Just try and make a wild guess of which one you got was right or not.
That's weird. Why is neutral colored red in this game? Anyways, I guess with all of that said, we can just go into the final thoughts. And I guess the ultimate question, out of all of the SMT games you have played, do you have any idea where you can rank it at the moment, even if it is subject to change?
Although definitely not perfect, as the story section has made that clear. I would probably, for mainline, probably still put it at top for me. It is extremely fun to actually play through, whether or not the plot itself is working at its best or not. And when it is, it's just a cherry on top. But even just the experience of going through that world, customizing my character, filling up the compendium, just everything to do with that is probably the most addicting experience I've had with just an RPG, just period. So friggin' this game is fantastic.
Yeah, I would say, like, it's definitely, if we're looking at the whole series, it's probably in my top, like, 5. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, I think I like it about as much as Nocturne.
Yeah, I'd say, honestly, thinking about it, my second favorite SMT game.
Jeez.
Just behind Strange Journey and a tiny, tiny bit ahead of Nocturne. Everything about it is just so fun, but the little murders it does bring it down just below peak SMT. But it is incredibly fun, and it is worth your purchase.
A modern classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would also rank it within my top 5, just all Mega 10. This includes like Persona and all that. Maybe even top 3, like if I'm feeling generous, but it's like, it was almost everything that I wanted in a modern home console SMT game, which we hadn't seen in like 20 years.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I guess it is a little ahead of what we're saying here, but it really makes me think about where the series is going from here. Whether it's more mainline titles or potentially more spin-offs. Thinking about what they're going to be doing on bigger hardware than just the 3DS, since 3DS is basically obsolete now. I am really excited.
Yeah, here's hoping for another Raidou game.
Oh, please.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I'd like to give a special shout out to all of my channel supporters whose names are on screen now. It's because of these kind and generous people that I'm able to do experimental content like this, and I'm really grateful to be given the opportunity. If you at all want to support the channel, then you can do so through my Patreon or by becoming a channel member. I can offer a few things in return, such as early video access, a special Discord role, and some occasional behind the scenes content. If that at all sounds interesting to you, then follow the links in the description to get started. I would also like to give a special shout out to my friends Oziach, Fither, and Tony4You for joining me on this video. You can find all of their channels in the description. If you like my videos, then these guys will definitely be your style. I can't thank you three enough for coming on, it really was a lot of fun. My next video is going to be my full review of Shin Megami Tensei V. At the time of this recording, I'm currently in the middle of the scripting process for that video. I have a lot I want to say on the game if you can't tell, and I'll be making sure that this upcoming review covers all bases. I'm not too sure when I'll have the video out by, but I want to have it done before the end of the year. If you want to stay up to date with that in future videos, then please subscribe to the channel and follow my Twitter at Compendium. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.